Have you ever wondered who really runs the world behind the scenes? Meet the G7. 7 of the most powerful countries on Earth. Their decisions shape your future, even if you've never heard of them. Let's break it down. What is the G7? The G7 means the group of 7. It's made of 7 rich and powerful countries: Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Together, they control more than 40% of the world's economy. They are like the board of directors for the world. Why was it created? The G7 started in 1975, after a big global crisis. World leaders wanted a private place to talk about serious problems, like oil, inflation, and war. So they made the G7. It became a secret meeting of the most powerful economies. What does the G7 do today? Now, the G7 meets every year. They talk about climate change, wars, global money, new technologies, and peace. Their ideas can start or stop wars, create laws, and even affect prices around the world. Yes, even in your country. G7 and poor countries. Some people say the G7 has too much power. They decide big things, but don't include Africa or poor countries. That's why the G20 was created, to give more countries a voice. But the G7 still controls most decisions. Do they help or control? Some people think the G7 solves world problems. Others think they only protect their power. The truth? It's a mix of both. But one thing is clear: when the G7 speaks, the world listens. Now you know what the G7 is, and how it affects the entire world. If you want to learn more about world power, money, and politics, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. This is SkyNova, bringing global power closer to you. Real examples of G7 decisions. Did you know? The G7 made key decisions during the COVID-19 pandemic, like vaccine funding and economic relief. They also coordinated sanctions against Russia after the invasion of Ukraine. And they created financial plans to help developing countries go green, through the climate investment funds. These are not just discussions. They become actions that impact the entire planet. Criticism and controversy. But the G7 is not perfect. Many call it a rich man's club. It's been criticized for ignoring poor countries, blocking fair trade, and pushing policies that benefit their own corporations. In fact, some protests have even turned violent during G7 summits, because people demand more fairness, more inclusion. Who attends the G7? It's not just presidents and prime ministers. The meetings include finance ministers, foreign ministers, and security experts. Sometimes, they invite guest countries, like India or South Korea, to join for special topics. They also include the European Union, even though it's not counted as one of the 7. Will the G7 survive the future? As China grows stronger, and African countries demand a voice. Many wonder, will the G7 lose its power? Will new alliances replace it? For now, the G7 still dominates. But the world is changing. And so is global power. Call to action, stronger. This is not just politics. It's about who controls your internet, your food, your money, and your future. Now that you understand the G7, you see how global power works, and how it affects your life. Want more truth like this? Click subscribe. SkyNova, where knowledge is power. Please, for more information, make sure you have subscribed to SkyNova. You're loved.